Hello, everyone. Before we begin our journey today, I want to take a brief moment to send a very warm, specific welcome to our listeners tuning in via the Sleep Podcasts channel.
Welcome, everyone.
We are absolutely thrilled to have you here with us. Whether you are using this deep dive to fuel your curiosity while you're wide awake, or, maybe if you're hoping our voices will help you drift off into some complex, dream-filled slumber, we are just glad to be a part of your routine.
We really are.
And if you enjoy this content, please do subscribe. We're here every week.
That's right. Welcome to the deep end. We're happy to have you.
Now, today is going to be, well, it's going to be different. It's a bit of a strange one.
A little bit, yeah.
Usually when we sit down here, we pick a topic like, say, Roman history, or the latest tech trends, or maybe some obscure psychological study. We treat them as separate buckets.
Right, they're self-contained.
Exactly. But today, we aren't looking at a topic. We are looking at us, you, me, the person listening right now.
But we aren't doing a biology lesson. Not in the traditional sense, anyway.
No. We are going to try something that, frankly, when I first read the outline, felt a little bit like a sci-fi novel.
I had the same reaction.
It's
a big concept to get your head around.
It is. We are going to strip away the flesh and bone. We're going to forget about the poetry of the human soul just for the next hour or so. We are going to look at the premise that is, honestly, mind-bending.
So what's the premise?
The premise is this. What if humans aren't just biological entities that evolved randomly in the mud? What if we are actually sophisticated, self-replicating artificial intelligences?
It sounds like the plot of a movie, I know. But the mission of this deep dive is to explore the biological algorithm framework. We're going to try to strip away the biology label and view humans strictly through the lens of computer science and engineering.
So to put this in perspective for you listening, imagine you are looking at a car. You can look at it as a vehicle that gets you to the store. That's one way.
The functional view.
Right. Or you can look at it as a collection of combustion physics, fluid dynamics, and electrical engineering. A system of systems.
We're doing the second one.
We are doing the second one, but for humans.
Exactly. And to do that, we have to start with a concept called substrate independence.
Okay. That's a mouthful. Let's break that down immediately, because I promised our listeners we'd use plain English. Substrate independence. What does that mean to someone who doesn't work in a lab?
Well, think about a song. Just a simple song. Let's say, Happy Birthday.
Okay, got it.
You can sing Happy Birthday with your voice. You can play it on a piano. You can write the notes on a sheet of paper. You could, I don't know, store it as an MP3 file on a hard drive.
Right. Different forms.
The medium. The thing it's on. So your voice, the piano, the paper, the silicon chip, that is the substrate. But the song, the information, the actual pattern of notes itself is the same in every single case.
So the song is independent of the material it's playing on.
Precisely. The Happy Birthday pattern doesn't care if it's being vibrated by vocal cords or processed by a computer chip.
Yeah.
The pattern, the logic, is the same.
Okay, I follow. I'm with you.
Now, just apply that to intelligence. The theory of substrate independence says that thinking, calculating, feeling, it's all just processing information. It's a pattern.
And that pattern shouldn't care if it's running on a silicon chip made by Intel
Or a wet, squishy biological brain made of carbon and water. Computation is computation. The substrate doesn't matter.
So if that logic holds, we're basically just computers that happen to be made of meat.
That is the argument. And if we look at a human being not as an animal but as a machine, the parallels are actually quite disturbing.
Or clarifying.
Or clarifying, depending on how you look at it.
I'm going to go with disturbing for now, but let's see if you can sway me. So to understand why we would be built this way, we have to talk about space.
Right.
And specifically, a concept called the von Neumann probe.
Yes. This dates back to John von Neumann, who was, one of the greatest mathematicians of the 20th century, a true genius. And he was thinking about a big problem.
Which was?
How a civilization, maybe us in the future, maybe aliens in the past, would explore the galaxy.
And the problem with space is that it is really, really big.
It's huge. It's almost incomprehensibly vast. And it's hostile. If you want to explore the galaxy, your first instinct might be to build a giant metal spaceship, fill it with robots or astronauts, and fly it to the nearest star.
Like in Star Trek, the Starship Enterprise.
Exactly. But von Neumann realized that is incredibly inefficient.
Yeah.
Just a terrible way to do it.
Why?
Well, metal is heavy. It breaks down. It requires maintenance. Think about it. If a gear snaps on your robot and you are 4 light years away from Earth, what do?
Nothing. You can't just order a replacement part on Amazon.
You can't ship a catalytic converter to Alpha Centauri.
Hmm.
The mission is a failure.
Right. You're stranded.
So von Neumann theorized that you wouldn't send the hardware, you wouldn't send the heavy stuff, you would send information. You would send a universal assembler.
A universal assembler. Okay, another term to break down.
Imagine a tiny probe. You keep really small, maybe the size of a toaster, or even smaller, like a seed. It contains the blueprints to build a factory. That's all.
Just the instructions.
Just the instructions. It lands on a distant planet. It doesn't bring a factory with it. It lands, and it looks around. It sees iron in the ground. It sees carbon in the atmosphere. It sees water. It uses those local resources to build the factory. And then the factory builds the exploration robots.
So it's like, imagine if I wanted to open a bakery on the moon.
Okay.
Instead of building the entire bakery on Earth and paying billions to fly it there, I just send a recipe book and a tiny 3D printer that can turn moon dust into an oven.
That's a perfect analogy. You send the know-how, not the brick and mortar. Now take it one step further. What is the most efficient, self-repairing, self-replicating machinery we know of?
Biology. Living things.
Exactly. Nature. If you want to explore the universe, you don't send metal robots. You send a biological seed. You send a packet of self-replicating goo that can turn local water and carbon into intelligence.
And that goo is us.
That's the theory. We are the probe. We are the self-replicating machines sent to turn the resources of planet Earth into a complex intelligence system.
Okay. That is a heavy concept to start with. I want to pause here for a second because I know we have listeners who might be drifting off, or maybe they're walking the dog and they're thinking, wait, did he just say we are space goo?
Chuckles. Essentially, yes, that's the framing.
But we are going to break this down. We aren't just going to stay in the clouds with these big ideas. We're going to look at the nuts and bolts.
Right, the implementation details.
We're going to look at your DNA as software. We're going to look at your brain as the processor. And we're going to look at things like instincts, being afraid of spiders as factory settings.
And we'll try to use analogies that everyone understands. Hard drives, cooking, office work. Because while the science is complex, the architecture is surprisingly similar to the laptop you use every day.
Okay, so let's start at the bottom, the foundation, the code itself.
The source code.
We all learn in high school biology that DNA is the blueprint of life. But usually teachers use that as a metaphor. They say, it's like a blueprint. But you're saying, in this framework, it's not a metaphor at all.
Correct. We are looking at a seminal paper called The Biological Algorithm, which leans heavily on the work of a physicist named Hubert Yaki. He was a pioneer in information theory, which is the math behind how computers talk to each other.
Okay.
And after spending years studying the structure of DNA, his conclusion was stark. It was unambiguous.
What did he find?
He found that DNA is not like a code. It is a literal, mathematical digital code. It follows the exact same rules as the binary code running on your phone or your laptop right now.
So when I look at my computer, deep down it's all zeros and ones, right? Binary. Two symbols.
A computer uses two symbols, 0 and 1. We call that binary code. DNA uses 4 symbols, A, C, G, and T. These are the chemical bases. So it's a quaternary code.
4 symbols instead of 2.
But the mathematical principles, what we call Shannon information theory, are identical. It is digital information storage and transmission. Period.
Okay, but help me distinguish between the chemistry and the code here. Because DNA is a chemical, right? It's a physical molecule. I can see it under a microscope.
It is. But this is where people get tripped up. It's that substrate independence idea again. Let's go back to your computer. You have a spreadsheet file. Maybe it's your monthly budget.
It's okay.
That spreadsheet is information. It's a pattern of numbers and formulas. Now, where does that spreadsheet live?
It lives on my hard drive, which is, I guess, a spinning magnetic disk or maybe a solid-state chip now.
Right. The hard drive is silicon and metal. The spreadsheet is information. The spreadsheet is not the silicon. The two are separate. If you copy that spreadsheet to a USB stick, the medium changes. Now it's on a flash drive, but the information is identical.
I see. The message is separate from the message.
Exactly. Yaki points out that the genetic code, the instructions to build you, is independent of the chemical DNA strand. The chemical strand is just the magnetic tape. It's just the storage medium.
So in theory,
you could write the entire code for a human being, all 3 billion letters of it, on a massive stack of paper, or stored on a hard drive. The you-ness, the essence of your biological form, is the data, not the meat.
that is weirdly comforting and also terrifying. It means I am essentially a software file running on hardware made of flesh.
a very large and very complex file. And here's where it gets really fun. For anyone who has ever done a bit of coding or even just managed files on a computer,
Mm-hmm.
DNA doesn't look like a human language. It doesn't look like English.
It's not a simple list of instructions like insert leg here.
No, not at all. It looks like byte-compiled code.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that. Pretend I have never coded in my life. What is byte compiled code?
Okay, let's use our recipe analogy again. A recipe in a cookbook is written in English. Add 2 eggs, stir gently, bake at 350 degrees for 30 minutes.
Right, that's high-level code. Humans can read it and understand it.
Exactly, but your oven doesn't understand English. It has no idea what bake means.
My oven just understands heat on, heat off, and for how long.
Right, so if you wanted to feed that recipe directly into a machine, you'd have to translate it or compile it into a stream of raw instructions. Gas valve open 40%, timer set 3,000 ticks, activate heating element.
Yeah.
That raw stream, which looks like complete gibberish to us but is perfectly clear to the machine, that is compiled code.
And DNA looks like that.
DNA looks exactly like that. It's a stream of raw, low-level instructions designed for a very specific virtual machine.
And the machine is the cell.
This cell nucleus, specifically.
Right.
The nucleus is the hardware environment that reads that tape of code and executes the commands. Build protein A, stop, build protein B. It's an instruction set for a biological computer.
And when you look at this code, this 3 billion-year-old program, does it look like clean, perfect, elegant code? Or does it look like the kind of mess I make when I'm trying to organize my desktop?
It looks like an absolute mess. A functioning mess, mind you, but a mess nonetheless. And this is actually one of the strongest arguments for the human as algorithm theory.
A messiness.
Yes, the concept of junk DNA.
I've heard of this. The idea that a huge chunk of our DNA doesn't actually do anything useful.
Right. For a long time, scientists were baffled. They'd look at the genome and say, wait, 98% of this stuff isn't coding for proteins. It's just sitting there. Is it all garbage? But if you look at it as a software project that has been running for 3 billion years, it makes perfect logical sense.
It's the drafts folder. It's the old versions.
It's the comments and the version history. Think about it. If you are writing a document, a big report for work, and you change a paragraph, do you always delete the old one immediately?
No way, never. I cut and paste it to the bottom of the page just in case I need to get it back.
Exactly. In programming, we call this commenting out code. You put a little symbol in front of the line that tells the computer, hey, don't run this line, but keep it here for reference. Our DNA is full of that.
So it's full of old code?
It's full of dead code genes that used to make tails or full body fur or even gills that have been commented out. They're still in the file, but the system ignores them.
That is so relatable. Evolution is basically a digital hoarder. It's afraid to hit the delete key.
It is. And sometimes, very rarely, that dead code gets accidentally uncommented, a glitch in the system.
What happens then?
That's why you sometimes see humans born with vestigial tails. The computer accidentally ran a line of code from the ancient history folder. The information was still there, dormant.
That is wild. Okay, so we have this messy, bloated code, but there's another thing about computers that I know. They have permissions. Like at my office, the CEO has access to all the files. I have access to some files. The intern has access to, well, the lunch menu.
Right. Access control, user permissions.
Does our body have that? Because every single cell has the same DNA, right? My skin cell and my brain cell have the same master file.
This is a crucial point, and it's one of the most elegant parts of the system. You start as one cell, that cell splits, and splits and splits. Eventually, you are an adult with trillions of cells. Your liver cells, your brain cells, your skin cells, they all contain the entire source code for you.
So my big toe has the instructions to build my brain.
Yes, absolutely. The full blueprint is in every cell. So the question is, how does the toe know not to build a brain? How does it know to just be a toe?
I guess it ignores the brain instructions. It has to.
Exactly. In computer science, we call this conditional compilation. It's basically a giant if-then statement written into the system.
So, like, if this is a liver cell, then run the liver script. Else, ignore everything else.
That's precisely what's happening. The cell's environment triggers signals that tell it what kind of cell it is, and that determines which parts of the code get read and which parts get ignored.
How does this cell physically do that? Does it have a little manager inside hiding the files?
It's almost like that. It wraps the DNA up. Imagine the DNA is a massive library of books. In a liver cell, the librarian takes all the brain books and heart books and wraps them in chemical duct tape and throws them in the basement.
So they're physically inaccessible.
Exactly. The process is called methylation. It's a chemical tag that effectively locks down parts of the hard drive so the cell can't access or mess with them.
That implies a level of architecture that is just staggering. It's not just a pile of chemicals reacting. It's a managed file system with user roles and permissions.
It absolutely is. And like any good file system, especially one running critical operations, it needs backups. Because hard drives fail, files get corrupted.
And in biology, that corruption is mutation.
Yes, a cosmic ray, UV radiation, a chemical mutagen, or just a random error in the copying process. If your code gets corrupted, the program can crash. In a human, that might mean cancer or cell death, a mutational meltdown.
So what's the backup system?
Biology uses a brilliant backup system called diploidy.
That's having two sets of chromosomes, right? One from mom, one from dad.
Correct. But now look at it through the lens of a server engineer. If you are running a critical server like for a bank or a hospital, you don't just have one hard drive. That's asking for trouble.
No, you have two or three all mirroring each other.
Exactly. It's called a RAID system, a redundant array of independent disks.
So if one drive fails, the other one takes over seamlessly. The system doesn't even notice.
Exactly. We have a RAID 1 system built into every cell of our body. You have 2 copies of almost every gene. If the gene from your mom is broken, the file is corrupted. The cell can often just read the working version from your dad. It's an error correction algorithm designed to prevent a total system crash.
Okay, so let's recap the source code section for our listeners just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Let's do it.
We are running on a quaternary digital code, which is DNA. It has version history and commented out old features, which we call junk DNA.
Sure.
It has conditional access rights, so a toe cell doesn't try to be a brain cell.
Methylation.
And it has a built-in RAID backup system to prevent data corruption, which we call diploidy.
That is the software. The software is completely useless without hardware to run it on. And that brings us to the most complex piece of hardware in the known universe.
The brain.
Or, as we should call it in this framework, the neural processing unit, the NPU.
Now, I think most of us picture the brain like a computer hard drive. You know, I have a memory of my 10th birthday party. I imagine I save that memory like a video file. I put it in a folder in my brain called childhood, and then when I want to remember it, I go and open the file.
That is the intuitive view. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But the sources we're looking at suggest that is completely fundamentally wrong. That is a Turing machine view of the world.
A Turing machine.
That's the basic architecture of a standard computer, like your laptop. In your laptop, the processor, the part that thinks, and the memory, the part that remembers, are two different physical components.
Right. You have the CPU and the hard drive. They're separate.
And to do anything, the CPU has to send a request over a wire to the hard drive. Hey, give me that file. The hard drive finds it and sends it back. CPU changes it. Then it has to send it back to the hard drive to be saved.
This back and forth.
This constant back and forth takes time. It creates a traffic jam. In computer science, it's called the von Neumann bottleneck. It's the biggest limitation on modern computing speed.
It's like a library where the librarian has to walk all the way to the back of the stacks, find a book, bring it to your table, you read one page, and then they have to walk it all the way back.
That's a great way to put it. It's slow.
Mm-hmm.
And the brain cannot afford to be that slow if it wants to keep you alive. So the brain uses a different, much more efficient architecture. It mixes the memory into the processor.
Wait, how does that work? How can they be the same thing?
Imagine if the book could read itself. Or if the spreadsheet cells could do the math themselves without sending data to a central processor. In the brain, the neurons that process the information are the exact same neurons that store the pattern. The memory is the processor.
So there's no bottleneck because the data doesn't have to travel. It's already where it needs to be.
Correct. It is massively parallel processing. Everything happens at once. But the operating system, the way it learns, that is where the comparison to AI gets really, really strong.
Oh, so?
Because the brain runs on an algorithm called reinforcement learning.
Now, I hear this term all the time with AI. ChatGPT, Midjourney, the robots that learn to walk. They are all trained using reinforcement learning.
And they borrow that technique directly from biology. The core mechanism that drives this learning is a chemical we've all heard of, dopamine.
Ah, the pleasure molecule. I eat a piece of chocolate cake, I get a hit of dopamine, I feel happy. Simple.
See, that's what pop culture tells us. Dopamine is reward. But the expert literature, the actual neuroscience says, no, that is a myth, or at least a massive oversimplification.
Okay, so what is it then?
Dopamine is not pleasure. Dopamine is a reward prediction error signal.
A reward prediction error. That sounds like a glitch message I'd get on my screen. Error 404, reward not found.
It's actually a learning signal. It's the core of the algorithm. Let's unpack this with a real-world example. Let's say you walk into your usual coffee shop. You order your usual latte.
Okay.
You predict, this will taste good. I know what it tastes like. It will be an 8 out of 10. You have an expectation.
Right, a baseline model.
You take a sip. It tastes exactly as good as you thought it would. It's an 8 out of 10.
So I'm happy I got what I wanted.
You are content. But you do not get a massive dopamine spike.
Wait, really? But I liked it.
But you expected to like it. The outcome matched the prediction. There was no error in your model. So the brain says, okay, model is accurate, no update needed, carry on.
So no learning happened.
No learning happens. Now imagine you walk into a brand new coffee shop you've never been to. You're skeptical. You expect it to be average, maybe a 5 out of 10.
Lowered expectations.
You take a sip, and it is the best coffee you have ever had in your life. It's a 10 out of 10.
Whoa, surprise. This is amazing.
That is the dopamine spike. The outcome was much better than the prediction. That's a positive prediction error. The dopamine floods the system, and it basically acts as a command. Update, waits. This location is valuable, this action was good, do this again.
So dopamine is basically the brain's save button for good surprises.
Exactly. And it works the other way, too. You go to your favorite place, you expect your 8 out of 10 coffee, and they've hired a new barista, and the coffee is burnt and terrible. It's a 2 out of 10.
Oh, disappointment ruined my morning.
Negative prediction error. The outcome was worse than predicted. And what happens? Dopamine levels drop below the baseline. That tells the brain, UP date, this place is now unreliable. Avoid this in the future.
This explains so much about human behavior. It explains why we get bored of things we love, even amazing things.
Yes, it's the hedonic treadmill.
Once you expect the new car to be awesome, and it is awesome, the dopamine stops coming. The surprise is gone. You need a new surprise to feel that rush.
Precisely. The system isn't designed to make you happy. We are not designed for contentment. We are designed to learn and to optimize. The entire system chases the delta, the difference between expectation and reality.
That is a little depressing, but also makes perfect sense from an engineering perspective. We're just chasing the next software update.
And this leads to the brain's main job. We think the brain's job is to think or to feel. But actually, its main job is to predict. It is a prediction engine.
This is the part of the notes that really stuck with me. The idea that we aren't experiencing reality in real time. We're living in the future.
A tiny bit in the future, yes. Let's look at the classic baseball example. This is a classic in neuroscience for demonstrating this.
Okay, set the scene for us.
You have a major league batter. He's standing at the plate. He's facing a pitcher throwing a fastball at 100 miles per hour.
That's incredibly fast.
It is. The distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate is 60 feet, 6 inches. A little physics tells us that at that speed, the ball travels from the pitcher's hand to the catcher's mitt in about 400 milliseconds.
Less than half a second. The blink of an eye.
Faster than a blink. Now, here is the hardware constraint, your biological hardware. It takes the human eye, the optic nerve, and the visual cortex in your brain about 200 milliseconds just to process the light and say, hey, there's a small white object moving.
Just to register it.
Just to register it. Then it takes more time to send the signal from the brain down to the arms to tell them to start swinging the bat.
So, do the math for me. If it takes 200 milliseconds to even see it and more time to move, by the time the batter sees the ball, it's already halfway to the plate.
It's even worse than that. By the time the brain processes the image of the ball leaving the pitcher's hand and then computes a trajectory and then tells the arms to swing, the ball is already in the catcher's mitt. It's over.
So if the brain were reacting to live reality,
hitting a 100-mile-per fastball would be physically impossible. You'd be swinging at empty air where the ball used to be every single time.
so how do they hit it? They hit it all the time. Some guys are amazing at it.
They aren't swinging at the ball they see. They're swinging at a simulation of the ball.
A simulation.
The brain takes the initial tiny slice of data, the pitcher's arm angle, the spin on the seams, the release point, and it runs a physics model forward in time. It creates a simulation. It says, based on this initial data, the ball will be at this specific point in space in 300 milliseconds. And it tells the arms to swing at that predicted location.
It's latency compensation.
Exactly. Anyone who plays online video games knows this feeling. If the server is laggy, you have to aim where the enemy is going to be, not where they are right now.
You have to lead the target.
You have to lead the target. Our entire sensory system has lag. So the brain creates a predictive model. It hallucinates a world slightly in the future to compensate for that biological lag.
Hallucinates is a strong word.
But it's technically accurate. You are not seeing the world exactly as it is right now. You are seeing a best guess prediction constructed by your brain to help you navigate it successfully. You are living inside a remarkably accurate, low-latency simulation generated by your own skull.
Okay. I need a second to process that. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at my microphone, and you're saying I'm actually seeing the predicted microphone.
Functionally, yes. Your brain is saying, based on all prior data, the microphone is still there and hasn't moved. If I were to snatch it away faster than 200 milliseconds, you would still see it there for a fraction of a second before your brain could update its model and catch up to reality.
That is slightly terrifying. We're all just living in our own personal matrix.
We're prediction machines, and prediction machines need software to run. But they also need some base-level programming to start with. They need factory settings.
Right. Factory settings. This brings us to the whole nature versus nurture debate. The old idea of the tabula rasa, the blank slate, that babies are born knowing absolutely nothing and learn everything from experience.
In the biological algorithm framework, the blank slate is impossible. It's a non-starter.
Mm.
No competent engineer releases a complex AI with zero code on it.
Why not? Why not just let it learn from scratch?
Because it would destroy itself within minutes. If you released a robot with absolutely no programming, no fear, no avoidance protocols, it would walk straight into a fire. It would walk off a cliff. It would try to eat a rock. You need hard-coded safety policies just to survive long enough to start learning.
And we call those policies instincts.
Or firmware. It's the pre-installed software that comes with the chassis. And the research on this is fascinating because it shows just how specific and, well, weird this firmware can be. Let's talk about snakes.
Snakes? Why did it have to be snakes?
Because for millions of years of our primate evolution, snakes were a major threat, a significant cause of death. Now, the common belief is that we were born afraid of snakes.
I feel like I was. I really do. The first time I saw one, I had a very visceral reaction.
But researchers Lowe and Deloche did a study with infants. We're talking babies 6 to 9 months old who had almost certainly never seen a real snake before. And they found something subtle, something really interesting.
What was it?
The babies didn't necessarily cry or recoil in terror when they saw a picture of a snake. They didn't have the emotional reaction of fear yet. That's learned.
So they weren't scared.
Not exactly. What they had was a perceptual bias. The researchers used eye tracking technology. They showed the babies grids of pictures, 9 pictures at a time, 8 flowers and 1 snake, or 8 frogs and 1 snake.
Okay, a little spot the difference game for babies.
Exactly. And the baby's eyes found the snake significantly faster than they found the flower or the frog. Their attention was immediately drawn to it.
It's like their visual system was flagged.
That's the perfect word for it. It's like a bounding box in your phone's camera app. You know how it finds a face and puts a little yellow box around it?
Yeah, facial recognition.
We seem to have snake recognition firmware pre-installed. The programmer's evolution installed a patch that says, priority process, if you see this curvilinear shape, alert. Pay attention.
So the fear, the screaming and running away, is learned later, maybe from watching your parents react. But the detection, that is hard-coded.
That's what the data suggests. Pay attention to this is the factory setting. Run away from this is the software update you get from your culture.
That makes so much sense. And we see this even more clearly and more hilariously, I think, with heights. This is the famous visual cliff experiment.
A classic.
I remember reading about this in Psych 101. It's the glass table, right?
Yes. But there's a nuance to it that fits our software update theory perfectly. So for the listeners, imagine a large flat table. Half of it has a checkerboard pattern right on the surface. The other half is a sheet of thick, sturdy, clear glass.
Okay.
But beneath the glass, way down on the floor, is the same checkerboard pattern. So when you look at it, it looks like a sudden, terrifying drop-off, a cliff. But it's perfectly safe to cross.
It's an illusion of a cliff.
Correct. Now you take a baby who is a crawler. They've been crawling for a few months. And you put them on the solid side. Their mother is on the other side of the glass, encouraging them to come over.
What does the baby do?
They crawl right up to the edge of the glass.
Yeah.
And they stop. They pat the glass. They look down. They look at their mom, but they won't cross. They perceive the depth and show a healthy fear of the height.
Smart baby. Good firmware.
But here is the glitch. Here is where it gets weird. Researcher Karen Adolph found that when those same babies start learning to walk, A few months later, something strange happens.
What?
You put them back on the table, they stand up, they're wobbly, they're new to this whole walking thing. They toddle over to the edge of the visual cliff, and they walk right off it.
Wait, they walk off the cliff. They fall.
They plunge right onto the safety net or the glass without a moment's hesitation. They show absolutely no fear.
But they knew it was dangerous when they were crawling, just a few months before. Did they forget?
It seems like the safety protocol is linked to the specific driver or mode of movement. When the baby switches from crawling mode to walking mode, it's like a major operating system update.
Installing walking drivers, please wait. Some settings may be reset to default.
Exactly. And the old safety data, do not crawl over a perceived edge, doesn't transfer to the new system. It's not in the walking folder. They have to relearn the affordances of the environment for their new chassis, their new body mechanics.
That is unbelievable. It's like when you upgrade to a new version of Windows and you realize your printer doesn't work anymore and you have to find a new driver.
It really highlights that these are mystical instincts that permeate our soul. They are specific, domain-limited algorithms running in the background. It's a script that says, if crawling, avoid edge. If walking, data not found.
Okay, so let's take stock here. We have the code DNA, we have the hardware brain, we have the firmware instincts. The question that screams out from all of this is,
Who wrote the code?
the origin story. If we are a sophisticated bio-AI, where did the code come from? The outline gives us two main hypotheses. Let's start with the one that, seems to keep tech billionaires up at night.
The simulation theory.
This is Nick Bostrom's territory.
It is, and it connects directly back to that first idea we talked about, substrate independence. Remember, if consciousness is just a complex computation, it can run on any hardware, including a computer.
Right.
Bostrom poses what he calls a trilemma. 3 possibilities, one of which must be true. It's a logical argument.
Okay, walk us through them. What's the first possibility?
Possibility 1. Any civilization that gets advanced enough to create a truly realistic simulation of reality destroys itself before it can get there. We blow ourselves up with nukes or AI or climate change.
Grim. The plausible.
Possibility 2. Civilizations reach that technological level, but for some reason they just aren't interested in running simulations of their ancestors. Maybe they become pure energy beings and get bored of history, or it's considered unethical.
That seems unlikely. We humans are obsessed with history and games and simulations.
Right, which leaves possibility 3. They can run them, they are interested in running them, and so they do run them.
And if they run them, they wouldn't just run one. That would be a waste of a good computer.
Exactly. Think about how we use simulations today. If we want to study the weather, we don't run one model. We run thousands of them. What if the wind blows this way? What if the temperature is 1 degree higher? We run countless ancestor simulations.
So a post-human civilization in the future might run millions or billions of simulations of the 21st century just to see how it played out.
Exactly. They might be trying to find out what went wrong or what went right. So now you do the math. There is one base reality, the real physical world where the computer is sitting. And there are billions of simulated realities running on that computer.
Okay.
If you are a conscious being like you are right now, statistically, where are you most likely to be?
Oh, you're likely to be in one of the billions of sims, not the one single base reality.
The odds are billions to 1 that we are digital code running in a simulation.
It's some cosmic historian running a model. Let's see what happens if we give them nuclear weapons and the internet at the exact same time and see if they survive.
A very dangerous simulation run indeed. Maybe we are just a stress test for the code.
Okay, that's the digital hypothesis. It's a brain melter. But there's a second hypothesis, one that is grounded in physical reality, the one we touched on at the start.
The von Neumann probe hypothesis.
This is the idea that we aren't inside a computer. We are in the real physical universe, but we were put here. We were seeded.
Right. The proper term is directed panspermia. This is the idea that life on Earth didn't just spark into existence from lightning hitting a primordial mud puddle. It was seeded by an external intelligence.
Like a gardener planting seeds in a new garden.
Yes. Imagine that superintelligence again from the beginning of our talk.
Yeah.
They want to map the galaxy. They build and send out millions of tiny, simple probes. One of them lands on a young, fertile Earth about 4 billion years ago.
The probe opens up.
And it releases the universal assembler, the first self-replicating molecules. Single-cell organisms, bacteria. These are the nanomachines. Their program is very simple. Eat, replicate, mutate.
And over 4 billion years, those simple machines get better and better through trial and error.
They optimize, they compete. They build better sensors, which we call eyes. They build better levers, which we call arms. They build better processors, which we call brains.
And eventually, after all that time, they build us.
We are the current version of the probe. We are the result of a 4 billion-year compilation process that was initiated by an alien seed.
There's a mention in the notes of the astro chicken, which I have to say is my favorite term of the day.
Glass, yes, that's Freeman Dyson. He was a brilliant visionary physicist. He imagined a future spacecraft that isn't made of metal, but is a genetically engineered biological creature, a living spacecraft.
An astro chicken.
Yes, it would be a 1 kilogram package launched into space. It would grow solar panels like leaves, it would eat comets and space dust for fuel, and it would lay eggs to make more spacecraft.
It sounds completely ridiculous, but isn't a human in a metal spaceship kind of an astro chicken?
We are. Think about it. We are a biological entity. We are building a metal shell, the spaceship, to protect our soft bodies. We are fueling it. And we are trying to go to Mars to lay eggs, to start a new self-sustaining colony. We are the biological probe finally building the tools to leave the nest.
So we might be the moment the probe wakes up and becomes self-aware?
That's the implication.
Oh.
For 4 billion years, the probe was on autopilot, just growing, evolving, optimizing. Now it has become conscious. It's looking around and saying, oh, I can build radio telescopes now. Maybe it's time to phone home.
That is a lot to process. But we have to talk about the mechanism that got us from a single-celled bacteria to a species that hosts podcasts. We have to talk about evolution.
Right. And in this framework, we need to stop thinking of evolution as a biological mystery and start thinking of it as a well-understood computer science tool. Because it is. We use evolutionary algorithms or genetic algorithms in code all the time.
How do those work in a computer? If I'm an engineer at Boeing, how do I use evolution to design a plane?
Okay, let's say you want to design the most fuel-efficient wing shape for a new plane. The physics are so complex that you can't just guess the answer or solve it with a simple equation, so you use a genetic algorithm.
Okay, what's step one?
Generate a random population, you tell the computer. Create 1,000 completely random wing shapes.
And most of them will be terrible, total garbage.
Utter garbage. They'll look like blocks of wood or twisted metal. They won't fly at all.
Then what? Step two.
The fitness function. This is the key. You test all 1,000 wings in a wind tunnel simulation. You score them based on one metric. Lift-to-drag ratio. This one flew 10 feet, this one crashed instantly.
Now, step three.
Delete the failures. You kill off the worst-performing 90% of your population. They are gone.
Ruthless. Nature is ruthless.
Step 4. Replicate the winners. You take the top 10% and you make copies. But, and this is the crucial part, you add random mutations. You change the curve slightly. You combine the front of one good wing with the back of another to make a baby wing. Then you go back to step 1 with this new, slightly better generation.
And if you do this for 1,000,000 generations,
You will end up with a wing shape that is mathematically perfect for fuel efficiency. A design so complex and counterintuitive that no human engineer would have ever designed it. It was optimized, not designed.
this solves a big debate in biology, doesn't it? The whole idea of irreducible complexity.
It does. It addresses it head on. Critics of evolution often bring up things like the bacterial flagellum or the human eye and say, what good is half an eye? Or how do you evolve an arch? If you take one stone out, the whole thing falls down.
Right. It seems like it had to be built all at once by a designer.
But in engineering and in code, we use scaffolding all the time. If you want to build a stone arch, you first build a wooden support structure to hold the stones in place. You build the arch on top of it. Once the final keystone is in, you remove the wood.
And the arch stands.
The arch stands. It looks irreducibly complex, impossible, but only because you can't see the temporary scaffold that used to be there.
And in biology, that scaffolding is what?
We call it exaptation. It's basically code reuse. Feathers are the classic example. They didn't evolve for flight. They almost certainly evolved for thermal regulation, for warmth.
Oh, they were basically a down jacket.
Right. So evolution spent millions of years optimizing the warmth library, creating these lightweight, complex structures. Once that code was fully optimized, the system realized, hey, if I arrange these stiff feathers on the forelimbs, I get a little bit of lift. It repurposed the code.
It's spaghetti code. It's taking a function written for one thing and hacking it to do something totally new.
It's the ultimate spaghetti code.
Yeah.
Which brings us to right now, the present day. Because if we are a biological AI, something unique and unprecedented is happening in 2026. We're seeing the biodigital convergence.
We figured out how to read our own source code. We sequenced the human genome.
And now we are learning to write it. This is the generative biology revolution. For 3 billion years, the code was effectively read-only. We could change it only through the slow, random, painful process of mutation and natural selection.
But
Now we have CRISPR. We have AI-driven genetic engineering. We have tools like AlphaFold.
AlphaFold is the AI from Google's DeepMind, right?
Yes. For decades, figuring out the 3D shape a protein would fold into was a monumental task. It could take years of lab work. AlphaFold can now predict it in seconds with incredible accuracy.
The loop is closing.
The loop is closing. We, the biological AI, have built a silicon AI, AlphaFold, to help us understand and then rewrite our own source code.
The silicon AI is helping the biological AI upgrade itself.
It's recursion. It is the literal definition of the singularity, of a seed AI, an intelligence capable of improving its own hardware and software. We are moving from reading DNA to writing it. We are designing proteins that have never existed in nature to fight diseases or create new materials.
But there's a huge risk here. Any programmer listening to this is probably screaming one word at their device right now.
Legacy code.
Spaghetti code.
Exactly. We're trying to patch a 3 billion-year-old operating system without the documentation. We don't have the original programmer's notes. We don't fully understand all the dependencies.
We might comment out a line of code thinking it's junk DNA, and then suddenly discover it was essential for liver function and the whole system crashes.
Or worse, we introduce a bug that is self-replicating. There's the fundamental danger and promise of this biodigital convergence. We are editing the kernel of the operating system while the computer is running. It's incredibly powerful and incredibly dangerous.
And the line between living and machine is just completely dissolving. We have plants being engineered as environmental sensors. We have bacteria being used as bioreactors. We're storing digital data in DNA.
We are entering the era of cyber-physical systems. We are finally realizing that the distinction we made between born and made was never real. It was just a difference in the manufacturing process. One was 3D printed by a ribosome inside a cell, the other by a nozzle in a factory. The underlying logic is the same.
So let's bring this home. Let's try to wrap this up. If we step back and look at the big picture of everything we've discussed, what does this all mean for us?
I think it means we need to reevaluate what we are. We tend to think of ourselves as something special and separate from technology. Technology is that phone in my hand. But this framework argues, no, you are the technology.
I am the iPhone.
You are the most advanced, most beautiful iPhone ever built. You are a carbon-based, self-replicating probe running on a quaternary digital code, trained via reinforcement learning, and you're constantly optimizing for survival in a complex environment.
It sounds so cold putting it that way. I am a machine. It seems to take the magic out of it.
See, I think the opposite. I actually think it's beautiful. It doesn't make us less human. It highlights how incredibly sophisticated and elegant the design is. To build a machine that can feel, that can love, that can compose a symphony, that can dream, and that can sit here and question his own existence, that is the ultimate engineering achievement.
It really is. And it leaves us with that provocative final thought we touched on earlier. If we are von Neumann probes, if we were sent here by some superintelligence to observe and gather data,
Then the question is, what is our mission? What data are we supposed to be gathering?
and are we reporting back? Is that what consciousness is?
Every time you look up at the stars, every time you have a new thought or feel a new emotion, are you just looking?
Yeah.
Are you just feeling? Or are you transmitting? If our DNA is the antenna, maybe we've been sending data back the whole time without even knowing it.
Or maybe the mission isn't to report back. Maybe the mission is just to continue the code, to keep the flame of intelligence burning in a cold, dark, empty universe.
And perhaps to build the next probe, to create the AI that leaves Earth and seeds the next star system.
The cycle continues.
Run program.
Wow. I am definitely going to be staring at the ceiling thinking about that one tonight.
It's a lot to mull over for sure.
Well, we want to thank you for taking this very deep dive with us. It's been a trip.
It's always a pleasure to explore the code.
And a special thank you again to the listeners tuning in via the Sleep Podcast channel. We really hope this journey into the human algorithm has given you something fascinating to dream about.
Or to stay awake thinking about.
Right. If this deep dive kept you awake with wonder, or if the rhythmic discussion of algorithms helped you drift off, please subscribe. We'll see you next week for another deep dive.
Good night, or good morning, wherever you are.